So Louis Moilliet, not sure how you pronounce his name, was born in Switzerland in 1880. And he lived to 1962. Um, he was Swiss. He met Paul Klee in high school, and they became lifelong friends. He was trained as a decorative painter, and he made his living, I think, mostly doing that, and um, as an artist, and I think primarily a stained glass artist. At least later in his life, he did a lot of uh, pretty large commissions in stained glass. He wasn't. He seemed to like travel a lot. He spent a good deal of time in Tunisia. Um, he wasn't like these other artists who really found a place to root in. Um, like he wasn't like Clay and Kandinsky in that way, although they moved around. They were all moving around because of the war and everything. But he first went to Tunisia in 1908. His second trip was in 1909. And then he lived at Werpswede Art Colony. He for a couple of different times, which I thought was interesting because we've talked quite a lot about Werpswede. Uh, he lived alone in Tunisia uh, from '08 to 10. Um, and then in 1914, the three of them, Clay, Moyer, and Auguste Maquet, went on their trip. It was for only 2 weeks. They were in Tunisia and they did an amazing amount of work, which still is just kind of amazing what they did. He married in 1910, and in 1916, his wife died one day after the birth of their first son. Um, says a restless life followed. He spent the summer of 1919 with Hermann Hesse, who he was friends with, and he illustrated a book of Hesse poetry. Um, he traveled through North Africa in 1919 to 21. And then it says in 36, he no longer did new watercolors, but reworked older sheets. And then as an aside, here I've got Hess. I don't know if it's Hess or Hesse. He began painting when he was 40 as a therapeutic thing. And, he was going to Carl Jung for therapy. Uh, Quite an interesting guy. He received the Nobel Prize in 1946. And I wrote down last time in my notes here, I wrote this little thing about Moyer, and so I'll read part of it. I said, what if the magic of Moyer has to do with stillness and time? The gap between bird calls, the way sound emerges from silence, and then there is the resonance. The stillness that the sound highlights by its movement. The, the creation stasis dissolution. The pebble in the still pond. Remembering grace. He was on to this, and all those luminous angels, those tones of white, those veils, they don't really exist without the black doorways, do they? Or at least they become much more real. more tactile and human. In each painting is the rhythm of time, memory, wedded with the landscape. The weight of tragedy is present, even if it's hiding around the corner, yet so is the presence of freedom. Inside the white light is the black seed, or does the black give birth to white? The echo of ancestors, their footsteps live here now in this dream of spatial delight. The call to prayer, the lost opportunity, the ephemeral glance, and the tumbling into the void, balance, surprise, innocence, laughter, tears. I was just riffing on Moilliet because they're so evocative to me, his watercolors. Um, so okay. Very few pictures of him. There are only two I found. Um, it's kind of a funny picture here. I wonder if I'm assuming maybe he did this wall mural. So this is an early oil painting, 1930, but he was 33. Um, and you can see actually, you know, this composition is indicative of his work. It's, he's got this space in the middle and then things going on around it. And he did that a lot. And then it's very, it's realistic, but it's abstract. Um, I found a couple of oils that I hadn't found before, but there's not much you can find. It's mostly watercolors. And the watercolors to me are far, far better than the oils, but it's instructive to see what he was doing with the oils too, which is very similar as far as the way he abstracted the space. Another thing that I found was that they called him, he was influenced by the Orphic movement, which was started by the Delwanese. Um, and they took Cubism, which Braque and Picasso were practicing in a monochromatic way. They added bold color, and that was the Delwanese edition. And then other artists went from there. And I guess uh, Moilliet was influenced by them. Mhm. So you can see how he was working with these rectangles of color, and all those guys, Clay and Make, were doing it too at that time. This is 3 years after their trip, but Moyer continued to use this whole, style all the way through, whereas Clay kind of gave it up and moved in other directions. like the way he did the sky and those rectangular shapes.
Hmm.
I wonder they don't look like he took a long time to do. But I guess we'll never know. Maybe that's quite some of the beauty of it is that they just look fresh. Um,
That one's really.
this one has like a kind of childlike quality for
Hmm.
me, like reminiscent of clay. Those figures look like they're kind of floating. So I I love the way he simplified things. Um,
The sky looks totally like Delaunay.
yeah, all these the way he abstracted all these rooftops or whatever they
Yeah,
are.
yeah.
It's so beautiful. Like it's like a prismatic thing that he created of light. And this is the
Yeah.
uncanny thing is like the way he used his whites. Like
Oh,
he's got that bright white, but then he's got a really like light gray glaze there, but it's still white, and then he's got this white, and then he's got the yellow whites. So
yeah.
with the dark colors. So it's really
Hmm.
he was really good with the subtle like colorations and simple. Like I love the way he did this gate where it's so irregular. It's not straight lines, but he lets the color do all the work. And I think all those guys, they thought that way. Like Matisse was all about that too. Like the color is doing the work, it, more than, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong there, but um, then this one's got these beautiful veils.
Yeah, it's got a lot of feeling in it.
I love the chicken in this one.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Yes.
And that one dark face.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
Like
it's amazing how you can feel this like the religion kind of thing was so little denoting it, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like okay, the green area, the trees are over here. It's like it's just one big blob of green.
Oh, yeah.
It's like he didn't fuss with it. He just something beautiful about that. Um, really love like this area where he's got that wet on wet uh areas contrasted with the hard edge of
Oh, yeah.
of the opaque red,
Huh.
which may even be gouache because it's
Yeah.
so heavy.
Mhm.
It's really nice. And then the black too. And then and then echoed with this little black doorway.
Mm.
This one looks like unfinished, but who knows?
Hmm.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, he really uses white, huh?
Yeah, really.
Do you think the white must be gouache, right?
No, I think it's the paper.
Well, if there's more than one white though.
Okay, this white,
Yeah,
hard to tell from here. Uh, could be gouache.
because white water, I don't know. I'm always curious because I've been using a lot of white gouache.
Well, white gouache will never have the same vibrancy as the white of the paper.
Right, okay, yeah.
So it's kind of hard to tell in this one.
Uh-huh.
Usually you can tell. The charm and delight of the trip was brilliantly described by Clay himself in his diary from the gates of Kairouan. The color possesses me. There's no need to try to grasp it. It possesses me. Here is the meaning of this happy moment. The color and I are one. I am a painter. I
Oh,
mentioned that when we did Clay about this was his epiphany when he was first got to Tunisia. Um, so I put it here since there aren't any quotes of Moilliet. I had to put
oh, that's
something.
clay. Oh, okay.
Uh, yeah, I love this one.
With those trees, wow.
Kind of unusual trees. I haven't seen
Yeah,
trees like that, but
right?
who cares? Like, I believe him.
That's one way to handle them. Way simplified.
Yeah. So this is the white of the paper, right?
Oh,
That's,
okay.
that's fairly obvious. Whether or not he looks like he might have taken the color off
Oh,
there with
but
a
what about
sponge.
that tower,
Hard to tell.
right?
That could be gouache. I don't know.
Looks like it to me, yeah.
Yeah, but really it's the values, I think, and the colors that are well, and the abstraction that is so interesting with him.
Uh-huh.
The deep tones and the light tones. Um, uh, this one is, I just love the way that the pencil comes through, but he's uh, not being very true to the lines. He's not going by the lines with the paint. So it gives you this kind of off-centered feeling. It's really interesting. Really interesting one. Wow.
Mm.
This X motif that you see a lot, it's back here and here. That kind of like that aqua sky. It's picks
Mm.
up on the color of the tree,
Mm.
but then this like more like a hooker's green. Uh, and a lot of like white.
I feel like I can really feel the heat of the day in this painting.
Yeah,
Mm.
Amazing.
yeah.
Mm.
That little thing of blue there, isn't that odd?
So that shadow, that purple shadow is interesting to me under the building.
Uh-huh.
It's so strong. Mm. Yeah,
Now this area in here is just so beautiful.
yeah.
The way it's all these different loose overlays. Um,
Oh,
the green surrounded by the sienna, and then around that the yellow, and then that deep blue in the corner.
um,
Wow. Like you don't need any more detail. It just creates this place for your imagination, or you kind of, it's a dreamlike place to enter. But it has mood, it has a feeling too. I mean, somebody called him an expressionist. I was like, really? Like, maybe he is. Okay, this is from Hermann Hesse's novel. He says Louis the Cruel had fallen from the sky. Suddenly he was there. Klingsor's last friend, the traveler, the unpredictable one, who lived in the train and whose studio was his backpack. So I guess this was like a portrait of Louis, who was like kind of a vagabond artist in a way, it seems. Um, I don't know about him being cruel, but this one, wow, it has such a feeling for Tunisia, or the desert.
So
It's
amazing.
interesting how it's got that one square with the detail in it.
Oh, up there?
Yeah,
Right. And but
kind of
the,
makes you think about, it's just like pointing to that's there kind of, you know.
yeah, really is nicely juxtaposed with the flat areas.
Yeah.
And I love this down here too.
I wonder what the X's are all about for him, you know?
Um, I don't know. This one is actually could be like a house because it's got that. Um, this looks like a figure to me, like a woman wearing
Oh, yeah.
a white whatever.
Cape or shawl or something.
Yeah. Yeah, those bold colors with those very soft, muted pinks and grays, and it's just so striking. So here we've got an oil from that time,
Yeah.
23, and it's like completely dead. It's like the oil just, who knows, maybe it's didn't age well or something, but
Mm.
it just seems like no comparison. But similarly composed, just the colors.
I like this.
You like that?
Yeah, me too.
Okay, I guess.
I like how there's like a man on the lower left
Yeah.
side, and it feels like the part above him is just right, right there, and everything else is looking out.
Mm.
I think with very little strokes and very little differences of color, he's made that space. I think that's pretty amazing.
Interesting.
I guess the thing that gets me is that there's not enough contrast between this whole area and then the deep space. Um, but maybe that's intentional. I don't know.
Mm. Yeah, that is way more vibrant, isn't it? Wow, that white. Oof.
It's almost like these artists understood um, that their visual art had to do with frequencies. So they would be like resonating at part of the picture, part of the drawing, part of the watercolor. They're resonating with sound or whatever they want to call it, vibration, and then the other parts of the abstract are the vibration is falling off, fading away, and then you get the blurriness. I don't know if I can explain it.
That makes sense to me too, that I've been thinking, how are they satisfied? How do they know when to just stop and leave this? And maybe they're using, like David said, another sense that it feels right to them on a vibrational level or some other, just staring at it. Maybe because that's what the sort of this magic of these. So maybe what was the synesthesia? Maybe they're having other ways of interacting with these paintings.
Well, like the existentialist writers, they focus on the heat or focus on intense emotion, and they try to not edit it. And here, there, part of the abstract is focused and part is unfocused, but I think they're doing that on purpose to give you the change in time of the resonance that they're experiencing. I don't know. It's really hard to describe.
Well, I think, for me, the attraction is, I think all of these mystic painters of that time that we were looking at, they had a different mindset. I mean, he's hanging out with Hermann Hesse. And these people were like really deep philosophers
Yeah.
and way into spiritualism and theosophy and all this stuff. So, of course, it's going to come out in their artwork. And maybe it's like, I think what David's saying, or what Jennifer's saying, I think that they were seen differently than we see. As artists because they had a different background to be there was I don't know, it was more tied to poetry and maybe these subtle things. That's my take.
So much structure in this one, really highly defined in some ways. And then that green down, the dark green, like, what's that? Who knows?
I think it's also for me, it's a lot about life and death. I don't know why.
Because people were getting blown to bits
And
during
that's
that.
another thing too. Like
Oh, yeah.
That was it. People were just dying for nothing.
this is 28, but a while after, but still, I think it was just part of, I don't know, there was just more immediacy or more depth than what we're used to. That's just my take.
But even gotten over Mackie. Think about his friend. Think about these guys' friends being blown away. They go to Tunisia and then boom, off they go to World War I, and that's
Yeah,
that.
like a few months later after they were in Tunisia, he died.
Exactly. So I'm sure that he's not over it. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not over it.
I know.
Humanity's not over it, obviously.
I really felt that. I had never known who Mackie was, and I loved his work, and bam, same with Mark. It's like, God.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like that. This is the beauty of art. Like we can look back at this time of these artists. There's so much we can get because it's a record of how they were thinking, how they were being, and it was different. It was different. I mean, I know like who's that famous artist who said after World War II, like the whole world changed. And they probably said that after World War I too.
Mhm.
It's another thing about modernism and abstraction. Like I just always thought abstraction was um, the way that it's been seen in through our modern eyes is as the secular thing, but I don't think it is. I think it's a mystical thing.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. I just am not getting this really.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Each-
Yeah, this hard edge stuff over here is a great, contrast to all of the blended muted areas.
Mm.
Whoops. Wow, it's just so interesting the way he did that sky and coming down to the yellow. He's got these like pyramid or V shapes. He's got kind of these trapezoid shapes. Then this dark, like red, like a ruby red,
Mm.
that, having this here just pops you into deep space.
It's like he was in on creation, and he can tell the difference between the formless and the formed all at the same time. He can realize both the
Yeah,
formlessness of
I
creation
like
and the
that.
form of creation. Like the middle of the painting is the formless, and then it radiates out, and the forms start to come together.
No, that's what good art, does. It's the form, it's the formless within the form. It's all together.
Know what that would be. I don't know centimeters, right?
I
know
don't either. I don't either.
how big these are. I got a ruler in here, let me see.
They're not gonna be, there can't be that big.
But I'm wondering, how big can you? You do big watercolors.
Sometimes, yeah.
A centimeter is 0.39 inches.
Oh, really? 0.39, so
Yeah.
it's not even a half an inch.
The
Can I see
20
the last
the 27 is close to 9 or 10 inches, somewhere
What's that,
between.
Joan?
27 would be kind of like a 10 inch. This is probably somewhere near 10 by 12 or 10 by 14.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah,
Michael, go back one. I want to see that one of Switzerland.
this
No.
one?
No, you flashed on another one. Next. No. No, go ahead, go back to where you were. I guess it just was up there for a second.
Here?
No.
Back?
Next. No, forward. Oh, I guess you went ahead. There was something that was of Switzerland that was just up for a second. Yeah, that.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah.
I think
That's-
this is,
Now he's in a different landscape, so it's much more,
Oh,
much stronger colors. But still white and cooler.
that's
much cooler.
interesting.
And
It's interesting too.
different color palette.
Yeah. Well, and Switzerland has such a different vibe than Tunisia, so,
Shapes aren't that different. Although I guess that's a church. It's interesting, that one.
Well, I think this is an art museum actually, because it says, I included the German, then I had it translated. Uh, but I thought Kunst meant art museum, actually, not art, but maybe I'm wrong.
Kunst means art.
Oh, just art?
Kunst means art.
So it doesn't make sense. Swiss art in Zurich. Where's the art? Like, I think it's an art museum.
Yeah, it could be an art museum, but it's just an abbreviation.
Oh,
The
Kunsthaus.
Yeah,
Kunsthaus is an art
yeah,
museum.
yeah.
Yeah, so okay. Anyways, I just I like this one because of this dark shape, and
Yeah.
it's very, again,
Stone wall on the right.
yeah. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. So
There was one I missed that was just before that one. Yeah. I like that.
yeah.
Staircase. Hmm.
Okay, any thoughts?
I have a thought.
Okay.
I'm kind of directing it at David. So a lot of times I felt like these paintings felt like they were in the Southwest. Like I felt more like I was in New Mexico than in Tunisia. I'm just wondering if David got that sense or anyone else.
Well, I've never been to Tunisia, but I assume looks like Morocco or Algeria or something. I don't know. Desert. And yeah, the desert is, you can see that, you can feel the desert in those paintings.
Mm-hmm.
The desert is very focused because either you're focusing on the heat, or if it's the winter, you're focusing on the sparseness or the scarceness, or you're focusing on something that's very strong sense of I don't know how to describe it. A very strong sense of the land being the master,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like the mountains. The mountains are a variation of desert, and that the mountains are the master of the universe that they live in. And the desert is similar because it's so vast and overwhelms even human settlements. It overwhelms because it's like the ocean, it's so vast. So that's the sense I get from the desert, and those paintings are definitely that way.
Thank you, David.
No more thoughts? We
I'm
could,
I'm
okay.
kind of curious about I kept having this question about what it was like for the artists to be in Tunisia because they were so influenced in certain years by, you know, the places they discovered and got popular with them to go to. And I was thinking how it's so not Christian in a certain way. It was like mind blowing, probably. I mean, this is just my wonderings, you know, that they were kind of mind blown by that mysticism and the different religion too, being just so different, you know, and the architecture, of course. But it's just that feeling like, how did they feel when they were there? That was so engaging to them to do artwork, you know. And anyways, that was just a question that kept coming up for me in this show.
Yeah, that's interesting because it's not just the desert, but it's the religion, the Muslim religion, which is very um, pervasive. It weaves its way into everything, and the people are all, even if they're not Muslims, they're all the influences are from the Muslim world, so they have to live with it. It's like you have to live with the desert, then you have to live with that milieu or that mindset. So it's part of the landscape.
I can't remember exactly, but I was reading somewhere where Tunisia, or at least in those cities that the artists were in, didn't allow anybody in if you weren't Muslim
Oh,
until a certain date. And I think it was the late 1800s, or, it was, or maybe it was early 1900s. I can't quite remember. But so them, Europeans being in that country, they probably got a lot of weird looks.
Yeah.
And so it was probably, it was probably very awe striking because, the paintings show that, not just Moilliet, but the other painters, that have been in that region
yeah.
came out with some amazing stuff. But
Yeah, the mystical flavor of those places went into their work.